Everyone can write at least one good story, a belief that has brought us all here to celebrate outstanding literary talent from our nation's writers. And so from wherever you are watching this event, please make yourself at home as we bring you, live streamed for the first time, the Furphy Literary Award. Hello, I'm your host Matt Dowling and thank you for joining us. On behalf of the Furphy Literary Award, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. As we all know, this year's Furphy Award has come during a time of global pandemic and the award partners would like to thank all those involved who have been able to work through these challenges to allow them to continue. We would also like to acknowledge everyone who features in this presentation. Of course, we were all looking forward to being in the one place, but thanks to modern technology, a far cry from the ink and paper favoured by one Joseph Furphy, we can still celebrate from elsewhere. On behalf of the Furphy Awards, we would like to give a further thank you to all the writers who submitted entries. We know that for several months now, the nation has faced some of the most challenging circumstances in living memory, and we hope these literary awards provided another challenge, this time of a more creative and inspired kind. And now please welcome our first special guests, Furphy Foundation Directors, Adam and Sam Furphy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Furphy and I am a great-great-great-nephew of Joseph Furphy and proud to be a co-director of the Furphy Literary Award with my cousin Adam Furphy. I would like to extend a very warm welcome and thank you very much for taking the time to join us this evening for the 2020 Virtual Furphy Literary Awards ceremony. 26 years ago, the Joseph Furphy Literary Awards started as a small regional literary competition by my father and author, Roger Furphy, in conjunction with the Goulburn Valley Regional Library, to recognise Joseph Furphy and his significant contribution to Australian literature. The Joseph Furphy Literary Award, as it was known then, provided the foundations for what is today the Furphy Literary Awards. And I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank both Roger Furphy and Jan Sutton from the Goulburn Valley Regional Library for their tremendous efforts and contributions over these years. 2 years ago, the work began to broaden this wonderful community initiative with the goal of creating a leading national short story competition for open age writers, as well as enhancing the existing junior and youth regional competition. And with some fabulous support from many people, we are delighted to have achieved this goal. We are very proud to be contributing to the literary industry and providing a platform for writers, young and old, to test their creative skills and talents with a short story or a poem.
Both Sam and I are proud to be carrying on the family businesses started by Joseph Furphy's brother, our great-great-grandfather John. Together, the Furphy businesses of today, J. Furphy & Sons and Furphy Foundry, are so pleased to have the privilege of being able to support and conduct this competition, honouring Joseph's literary legacy. But we're also extremely fortunate and thankful for the additional support of a wonderful group of sponsors who have embraced the idea of the awards and helped bring them about in this new and expanded form. We would like to thank Furphy Beer and the team at Lion Brewing, in particular to James and Mal, for their generous contribution to the awards and for their enthusiasm for celebrating the art of Australian storytelling. This has very much been a partnership project and the support and encouragement from them has been fantastic. The City of Greater Shepparton have been a magnificent supporter of the awards. As a principal sponsor of the junior and youth categories, they have been deeply involved in interacting with the local schools and young people of the region to encourage as many participants as possible. These are challenging times for the university sector, but notwithstanding that, we are pleased to have La Trobe University involved as a sponsor with their assistance with judging as well as a residency for the open winner. Thank you to Vice-Chancellor John Dewar and also to the Shepparton Campus Director Elizabeth Cack for the numerous ways in which La Trobe has assisted with bringing these awards together. We'd also like to thank the judges for the awards, In the open category, we've had 850 entries, which have been initially reviewed by a group of thinning judges organised by La Trobe. Following that process, a smaller number of entries have been handled by our main judging panel, each of whom will speak tonight on one of the shortlisted works. It's been a pleasure to work with these judges, distinguished authors in their own right, through the process. Thank you all for your diligence and thoughtfulness in your considerations. I'd also like to thank our Chairman of Judges, Professor John Barnes. Few, if any, among us can lay claim to a greater knowledge and study of Joseph Furphy and his works. He is the perfect pick on this count for the role of Chairman of Judges. But in addition to that, his calm, methodical approach to things has been of a tremendous support and assistance. Thank you, John.
We would like to also acknowledge and thank the Advisory Board, Malcolm Eadie, Elizabeth Capp, Kevin Priest, and Amanda Tingay for your support and contribution to the direction of the Furphy Literary Awards, and in particular Robin Black for your fabulous coordination of this open category competition.
Tonight's awards have been put together by a wonderful team from the City of Greater Shepparton, Rachel Frampton, Nicole Zerkis and Carly Ventry, and with assistance also from Aaron Marnie at Websites Plus. It really has been a new path for us, and we'd like to thank them all for their dedication to producing an event worthy of the entries. Well done. Finally, we would like to thank the entrants and their supporters for contributing works for this competition. We're so pleased that you took the time to produce these works and put them forward for consideration. We're looking forward to announcing the winners and celebrating their success, and to inviting you all to submit again next year. Enjoy the evening.
The Furphy Literary Awards honour the Australian author Joseph Furphy, whose major work, Such Is Life, is recognised as an Australian classic. Published in 1903, Such Is Life, like his other works, captured the Australian character and custom, life and scenery in a unique way that is rich and detailed. Joseph was born in 1843 in the Yarra Valley, where his parents, having recently emigrated from Ireland, worked on Ryrie Station. Educated by his mother due to the absence of a school in the district, Joseph developed a love of books from an early age, Shakespeare and the Bible being the two most available to him. As a young man, he worked in various agricultural pursuits, eventually selecting land in the Colbinaban region near Shepparton. But alas, drought and poor land got the better of him, and he established himself as a bullock driver in the Riverina district of New South Wales. It was this chapter of his life that gave him the experiences and contemplations which gave rise to so much of his later writing. Drought once again visited disaster upon him in 1883, and he lost his bullocks and business and found himself in Shepparton working at his brother's foundry to support his family. Whilst the job in the foundry robbed him of his independence, it did provide the thing that was of critical use for him: time. Time to write in his small cottage at the back of the foundry under the light of a lantern. Thus was produced Such Is Life. Upon sending the manuscript to A.G. Stevens of the Bulletin, Joseph wrote, "I have just finished writing a full-sized novel. Title, Such Is Life. The scene, Riverina and Northern Victoria. Temper, democratic. Bias, offensively Australian." Stevens pronounced it to be fitted to an Australian classic or semi-classic. Such Is Life sold 1,100 copies in Joseph's lifetime. A year after it was published, he moved to Fremantle, where his sons had established their own foundry. He died there in 1912. Like so many creative talents, his work was admired more so after his death and has shown enduring worth. He waited 6 years for its publication, and his other works were not published until many years after his death. Today, his work remains a thoughtful and colourful insight into an earlier Australia, and the Furphy Literary Awards add to his legacy to Australian writing. And all these years later, Such Is Life is still a powerful story of the Australian culture, which is celebrated around the nation. Now, please welcome a message from award partner Furphy Beer and its CEO, James Brindley.
The Furphy Literary Award has been established to promote and extend the tradition of storytelling, both factual and fictional, that is so much part of Australian life and continues a family tradition started so long ago by Joseph Furphy. Literature awards enrich us all. They encourage us to discuss, to assess, and to celebrate each unique piece of literature and each unique author. Literature has been a great friend to many of us during the recent coronavirus lockdown and is certainly a welcome and invaluable change from screen time. Congratulations to all involved, the Furphy family, fellow sponsors, judges, but most of all, the participant authors. This is a wonderful celebration of Australian literature. Thank you, and I look forward to reading some fabulous short stories.
Thank you, James. Now, to hold these literary awards, there are some important people you need, foremost among them the judges, the women and men who, in a few short months, have read through the many hundreds of entries and managed somehow to narrow it down to just a few. To that end, the Furphy Literary Award has had the support and expertise of 6 great Australian authors. They are Anson Cameron. A regular columnist for The Age newspaper, Anson has written 6 novels, 2 collections of short stories and a memoir. He hails from Shepparton and is a great nephew of Joseph Furphy. Claire Wright. An award-winning historian and author, Claire received the Order of Australia for services to literature and historical research. She is currently a Principal Research Fellow and ARC Future Fellow at La Trobe University. She is the author of 4 works of history, ABC Radio national host and popular public speaker. John Harms. John is a Melbourne-based writer, historian and broadcaster and contributes to a number of books, journals, newspapers and magazines. Margaret Hickey. Margaret is an award-winning author and playwright from northeast Victoria. She holds a PhD in creative writing and lectures at La Trobe University, in addition to teaching English at a local secondary school. She features in a segment on ABC local radio called It's All Academic, and her first collection of short stories is due for release this year. John Kerr is an independent writer and publisher with a background in corporate, educational and general book publishing. Thornton McCamish, journalist, author and former editor of the Big Issue magazine. His work has won the New South Wales Premier's Douglas Stewart Prize for non-fiction and was shortlisted for the 2017 Prime Minister's Literary Awards. Thornton originally hails from Ardmona in Greater Shepparton. These 6 judges, along with the team of thinning judges provided by La Trobe University, have done an amazing job in reading through the hundreds of submissions from across the country. Thank you to all 850 of you who submitted stories. From this, we'd like to congratulate the following who made it through to the long list. A great achievement from all of you, and we're sure it won't be the last. Along with the judges, there's another special group of people we need to thank, and they are the other Literary Award partners. So here's some messages from the people and organisations who continue to support the awards and promote Australian literature.
We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Thank you all for joining us in this year's unconventional Furphy Literary Awards. It is wonderful that in this time of physical distancing, we can still support one another and celebrate our achievements. Greater Shepparton City Council is honoured to be able to support the Furphy Literary Awards, and we applaud everyone who has been involved to make sure these awards continued and this video possible. I would like to extend my gratitude to those in our community who have been continuing to work and learn remotely from home. Thank you for keeping our community safe. It is pleasing that we can still be together to celebrate Australian literature and the upcoming writers through these awards. The Furphy Literary Awards support the belief that everyone can write at least one good story. And today, we thank everyone who has shared their story, and congratulations to all those whose works were shortlisted. To all those watching We hope you enjoy the remainder of these awards, and we look forward to welcoming you back in our region. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Professor John Dewar and I'm the Vice-Chancellor of La Trobe University. We are absolutely delighted to be a principal sponsor of the Furphy Literary Awards, and I'd like to congratulate all of the entrants and finalists. Well done. With the COVID-19 pandemic affecting almost every part of our lives, celebrating the power of storytelling has never been more important. We were really pleased to contribute by providing a small army of long list readers to help assess the huge number of entries. And two of our award-winning academics, historian Professor Claire Wright and playwright Dr. Marg Hickey, were final round judges. We look forward to hosting a writer's residency at our Shepparton campus for the winning author when we're able to get back on campus. Being involved in events like this is really important to us. We take our role in the regions very seriously indeed, and we're a very proud supporter of arts in all of the communities we serve. Being part of the Furphy Literary Awards also builds on a strong connection that we already have with the Furphy family. Indeed, Adam Furphy is currently a member of the university's governing council. We've been presenting the John Furphy Memorial Lecture in Shepparton for almost 15 years now, so it was only natural that we'd want to be involved in celebrating the work of John's brother, Joseph Furphy, who many regard as the founder of the Australian novel. So there was never any real question about our enthusiasm to be involved in yet another great initiative from the Furphy family. So even though we can't be physically with one another tonight, coming together online for events like this is still really important, and perhaps more important than it's ever been. Now, I'm really hoping that we see all of you in person next year for the Furphy Literary Awards, but in the meantime, congratulations on a terrific event, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you very much.
Hi, it's Kevin Priest here, and I'm coming from the Shepparton Library, home of Joseph Furphy. Well, he's bust anyway. Golden Valley Libraries operate 10 libraries and a mobile library for Greater Shepparton City Council, the Moira and Strathbogie Shires. We've been facilitating the Furphy Writing Awards since inception over 25 years ago, and we're proud to continue our involvement through our ongoing sponsorship and support. We're rapt that the Furphy Literary Awards have gone national and put the spotlight on Shep, home of the Furphy legend. Congratulations to the winners and well done to the organising team. Joseph and I hope to see you in Shep real soon. Bye for now and have a great night.
And thank you once again to all the Furphy Literary Award partners. And now it's time to hear from our 6 main judges as they present a précis of each of the shortlisted entries you can now see on your screens. Each of these entries demonstrates excellent writing, storytelling, and an ability to captivate the reader.
I loved reading Ando Gets Plastered. This story is like as if you're leaning in to a friend and she's telling you her hilarious story of a relationship gone sour. And there's so many funny parts in this story. Ando at the aisle with his one black wedding suit and one plastered boot. Ando with his plastered leg dangling over the side of the honeymoon spa in Port Douglas. And we all know an Ando, someone who gets plastered, leaving others to pick up the pieces. This story is also very clever for the way it uses the actual act of plastering in the same way as heartbreak, the heating, the cooling, and then the hardening of resolve, and also perhaps even revenge. So funny, clever, and relatable, Ando Gets Plastered is a triumph. Well done.
Taking its lead from the true story of the 1964 HMAS Melbourne Voyager disaster, Awakening is an entrancing peek into the closeted world of a woman on the brink of making a momentous change when she is suddenly caught in the updraft of history. This is a story of languor and loss, provincialism and possibility, of deep-seated longing and thwarted desire. Ruby Todd is an extremely accomplished writer who has delivered an impeccable short story, both perfectly self-contained and wondrously open-ended. We want to read more. We've had just enough. The Furphy Literary Award is a blind refereed competition. On learning the identity of this story's author, I immediately wanted to go out and read her back catalogue. Whether Awakening becomes the prelude to a novel or popped as is into a short story collection, I will certainly be first at the door to buy my copy.
I'm writer, editor, publisher, ex-bookseller and reader John Kerr. Sue Osborne's The King of George Street won me over. Her first paragraph: I hate being late for work. It's frustrating fighting through the masses on George Street. Crowds mean money. I like to set up my equipment carefully, be professional. George Street, the Manhattan end of Parramatta Road, international hotels, corporate headquarters, finance houses, major retailers. Who is this I? A big shot CEO? A mother whose kids were cranky all the way to the school gate that morning? The smartest guy in the room with a PowerPoint? Desk jockey terrified of his KPI that day? A bank robber? Osborne's last word, professional, is a word that's taken on a defensive tone of recent times. This reader recognises a writer with a fine ear. The second paragraph reveals that the eye of the story, the king, is none of the above, and it reveals him in action. It's a superb opening. Her plot is simple, so is her style. She uses the language of everyday speech. The king's own words have believability, like the gentle irony in my diary is not exactly chockers at the moment. His memories show only a modest degree of self-knowledge, but they're never bitter or pathetic. Osborne has discipline. She stays on the course she started on and keeps the reader focused on her king, and we warm to him. We like him, this simple, flawed man. He deals with adversity and endures nightmares philosophically. He responds to the kindness of others with gratitude and good intentions. And the other characters are drawn from George Street. The guy in the hoodie, Mr. I pay a very high rent to have my designer shop in this location. And one special Mr. Nice Guy, believable too. The ending is upbeat and the king's future has promise, but Osborne offers no guarantees. A talent for simplicity is rare. Readers recognise and trust it. Authors can strive for it, but most find that simple is hard. Sue Osborne has mastered it here.
It's my pleasure to be speaking about one of the entrants, one of the shortlisted finalists pub raffle, which is a fantastic story by an author called Yah Reeves. It's set during the time of the Australian bushfires last summer in one of those classic idyllic Australian towns that we all know so much about, which have got a combination of holidayers but also people who live in the area and provide the services. It's a first-person narrated piece, and it seems like the narrator would be probably early 20s, full of life, full of activity, and so the story starts with some surfing, off for a surf, play, but of course around everywhere are these threatening bushfires. And they're not too threatening, although stories are coming from other townships and other coastal townships, but especially in the hinterland, and it's getting more and more tense. And Yah Reeves is able to build that tension and that anxiety and that fear and that what do we do element of the whole piece. So there's a town meeting, people are leaving, they've been told they have to leave. Are we going to stay? Are we not going to stay? So it's around a decision. Where are the fires? What's our response? And they make the narrator makes the decision to stay with family and with other friends. The style really adds to it. The writer uses a lot of short sentences, like clipped sentences with no subject. So it's a little bit like a diary. It's a little bit like notes. And so a lot of sentences start with verbs. And this really adds to the pace of the story and the feeling around the story. She's really bringing us into her situation. So increasingly, the threat emerges, is there. They hear of stories of towns that have been saved. They hear of stories of towns that have just gone under. It's just razed to the ground. And so the fear is getting, and it's real fear, it's existential fear. And so they're in the pub on a Saturday night and there's a raffle. And so this brings out, and this is the conclusion of the story, and I won't tell you what happens, but it's done absolutely brilliantly. The themes are really powerful. It's like, what do we do in the face of the human condition? What part does chance play? Do we just sit back and accept everything, or do we act? What's our state of mind? What's our state of being? What can we do? So it throws up lots of magnificent themes. It's a really, really terrific story, and it's fully deserving of its place in this award.
Firstly, congratulations to all the shortlisted writers in the Furphy Literary Award. It's no mean feat getting shortlisted in a competition so widely competed in and so widely entered across Australia. So well done to everybody. I'll never forget the thrill of being shortlisted in competitions myself in the early days, and in a wash of hubris and humility, I was a better man for sometimes as long as a week. So you've got that to look forward to, you people. I want especially to congratulate Jean Flynn for her story, Straining at the Leash. It's the story of a woman suffering the heartbreak hangover of a broken marriage and yearning to reconnect with humanity and needing to have her worth revalidated and thinking that maybe a new romance will do that. The narrator has a playful, ironic voice, and her personality is succinctly revealed by the name of her dog, Bob Brown. That's a clever piece of writing. If you meet someone whose dog is named Bob Brown, you know a lot about them straight away. The narrator's been left by her husband and she feels like a failure, and so she sets about imagining her way into a stranger's life as a way of reigniting her own life. And the story is an exploration of how we regret the past, but are nevertheless trapped by it, born back ceaselessly into it, as another writer once wrote. And the text slips deftly between dialogue and internal dialogue, which emphasises the unique feel of the story. We really are inside this woman's head. So that's beautifully handled, I think. And it ends on a note of hope, perhaps a new beginning, but anyway, if not a new beginning, at least the possibility that new beginnings might be available to us. They might exist. So finally, I like writers who speak to their dogs when they're alone with them. I test all my dialogue on my cattle dog, Wilma, and she's among the best editors I've ever known. So congratulations to Flinny. Well done. It's a hell of a story, Straining at the Leash.
Hi everyone, I'm Thornton McCamish, one of the judges for this year's Open Short Story category. Before I say a few words about Waiting for the Dog by Mira Robertson, I'd like to say what a pleasure it's been to be involved in the awards this year. I grew up near Shepparton and so feel a local boy's pride to see this award that has energised so many writers from across the country, bringing some well-deserved attention to Joseph Furphy's old stomping grounds in northern Victoria. I also want to say well done to the Furphy family, especially Sam and Adam, for the work and planning they put into this award and for their generosity investing in new writing. Congratulations to you both and to all the hardworking staff behind the scenes who have made this happen, despite all the disruption caused by COVID-19. Waiting for the Dog was one of my favourite stories on the shortlist. It's a simple story on the face of it. Depending on how you read it, there's only one character in the action it describes. Jean is an elderly and feisty widow, living alone on the farm her son now runs, sitting on her veranda one evening, deep in thought. The tone is calm and steady. There are no whiz-bang effects. The stakes don't seem to be terribly high. Not at first. But the story is a pleasure from the first paragraph, thanks to Jean herself. Right away, we're drawn into the chatter of her mind and memories. In a few hours, she thinks to herself, the sky would flush red and orange, and one of the Greek gods, she couldn't remember which, would drive his chariot into that same swamp. It's hard to resist someone who idly imagines Apollo plunging his chariot into a billabong. Jean is deeply familiar to anyone who grew up in the country. She's also a one-off. Despite the infirmities of age, she's fiercely independent. She's a coper. She was a dead-eyed dick with the shotgun in her time, as numerous snakes discovered too late, In her district, she was an early enthusiast for the practical benefits of trousers for women. But she misses her late husband badly. He was the Derby, she thinks, to her Joan. Her memory's not what it was either, and she's reached an age where she's hearing voices in her head, those of her late husband, her absent daughters, and perhaps she's even starting to see things too. As the story opens, she's hoping her son's brown dog will turn up, as it often does at this time of day, and give her another creature to talk to. Instead, a square-jawed stranger arrives, a man who may be more than the taciturn stockman he appears to be, and the story's fuse is lit. There's no stopping now until we find out how it all ends. And how it ends is actually open to interpretation. And that's what's so successful about this story, I think. The energy, the note of unease, it all comes from its suggestiveness, the sense that there's more going on here than Jean realises. It's a story that is rooted in a specific place and in an era of Australian rural life that is passing. But there are subtle nods to a broader literary tradition too. I thought I detected the literary ghosts of Barbara Bainton's bush Gothic stories here, and maybe even the character of Death from Chaucer's Pardoner's Tale. I could be overreading, but what's certain is that there's a lot of technical skill to the way we flicker between the stories present and in and out of Jean's memories. I was really impressed by how Mira manages to build such a vivid picture of a life with lightly sketched but telling touches, even tiny things. The way Jean pushes herself out of her chair to greet the stranger, for instance, quote, wanting to be on equal footing before he reached her, unquote, tells us a lot about the life she's lived and the person she feels herself to be. This story has stuck in my mind for weeks, and I'm really glad I got to read it as a part of this award. I wish Mira Robertson all the very best for her future writing and offer my warmest congratulations to everyone who made the shortlist.
And so there you have it, a formidable collection of stories and authors on the shortlist for this year's award. Their names and stories on your screen once again. Congratulations to all on making it this far, and we look forward to finding out who will win the inaugural National Furphy Literature Award. Of course, the Furphy Literary Awards have had their place in Shepparton for almost 30 years. And so to congratulate the writers and acknowledge that history, here are our local parliamentary representatives.
Congratulations to the award winners and runners-up in tonight's iconic writing competition. It's extraordinary to see how this award has now grown into something much bigger. People in Shepparton have known about the Joseph Furphy Literary Awards for years, but hasn't it grown? And isn't it wonderful to see people from across the country now participating? Joseph Furphy said that everyone had at least one good story in them, and tonight has shown that that's true.
G'day, it's Damien Drum here, the federal member for Nichols, centred around Shepparton in the Golden Valley. Well, living through the coronavirus has had a huge impact on a lot of families. But what's happened to many families is that they've bought out the books, they've bought out the stories, and they've bought out the word games. And it really has it's increased the influence that literacy has had on all of our families. So it gives greater clarity to why this year's Furphy Literary Award is such an important award within Australia's culture. So I congratulate those who have entered the awards and those that have been shortlisted, and certainly those that have been successful in winning their category. I also want to thank Adam and Sam Furphy, their team, for reinvigorating these awards and their ambition to actually make it the preeminent award in Australia for short stories and make sure that this award is rooted right here in Shepparton. So I look forward to attending these events in future years, and I wish everyone there at the awards all the best.
The written word has always been extremely powerful, able to invoke great emotion while also encouraging the reader to let their imagination take them away to faraway places. I would like to congratulate all of the entrants in the 2020 Furphy Literary Award. Your words inspire and delight, and your talents are a sight to behold. The Furphy name is synonymous with powerful words, words such as community, philanthropy, and history. I congratulate the Furphy family on presenting the 2020 Furphy Literary Award, and I wish all of the entrants the very best of luck. May you continue to provide great joy to your readers for many years to come.
Great support from our elected MPs, and that support is reflected elsewhere as well, with these awards one of many national attractions on our local stage. Because, as you are about to see, Greater Shepparton is full of wonderful things that keep our region thriving.
This is a great place to grow a business. I'm Charles Woolley, and this is Greater Shepparton. Fertile land, fresh water and sparkling sunshine yield great results. It's the nation's largest dairy industry, exporting to China and Southeast Asia. Fresh fruit makes its way across the country and around the world. The fresh place to grow your business is right here. Greater Shepparton. Great things happen here.
The Furphy Literary Award sets a new benchmark in celebrating and recognising Australian writing and supporting new authors. But don't just take my word for it. Here's acclaimed Australian author John Marsden.
Hi, this tatty document dates from 1959 and it's the first time I got published. It was the grade 4 class newspaper that we had at Devonport Primary School, and it's the first time I've ever shown it in public. But I've got to say that that encouragement, that reinforcement, that recognition that I got from getting published was incredibly important to me, and I doubt that I would have had the writing career that I've got today without that support. And that's why I think things like the Furphy competition are fantastic, because it's such a great way to get that reinforcement and encouragement and recognition. But it's also important to remember that if you didn't win this one, then don't worry, try again the next time a competition comes around, because as a judge of many competitions, I know that when you get down to the last 8 or 10, it's so hard because they're all so brilliant that ultimately it becomes almost a bit subjective to choose your winners and place getters. And so if you aren't among that group this time, that doesn't really say anything about your future as a writer. So go for it. The more you write, the better you get. And all the very best. Congratulations to the winners and place getters, and good luck to everybody.
Hello again. I'm joining you from what I like to call the Zoom room, with the very exciting task of meeting the top 3 place getters for the Furphy Literary Award. We have 1 winner and 2 highly commendeds, and one of those to be highly commended is Castlemaine's Kate Kennedy. No stranger to winning awards, and she wrote a short story for this competition called Ando Gets Plastered. Kate, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, and look, congratulations on placing in the top 3 from 850 entries. Not the first prize I know, but still an amazing feat, I would think.
I am thrilled with that. And I can't wait to read the rest of the shortlist and the long list, because that is a very big pool to be choosing from. I'm sure the judges have had a hard time getting to their favourites, and I want to read those, you know.
We've got plenty to pick from. Tell us about your story, though, Ando Gets Plastered, which in the spirit of Joseph Furphy sounds very Australian, I must say.
It is. I did write it with that in mind, because it was the beginning of lockdown, and I was thinking I want to do some more writing. I was meant to go overseas on a sort of a 10-week trip, including going to the Cork Writers' Festival in Ireland, and then another great festival in Jamaica, and then a couple of residencies, and it all got cancelled. And I was feeling a bit flat, I've got to say. And I thought, all I want to do is tell a yarn that I find, you know, funny and interesting. That's got something I can spin. That's going to be a fun yarn to spin. And it was great fun to write, and I'm really happy that the judges enjoyed it too.
You've won some big short story competitions before. Tell us what do you think is the key to writing a good story, and a good short story in particular?
Well, I do love the form, it must be said. I really enjoy reading them, and I enjoy writing them. So I guess the great thing about short stories is that everything has to be compressed and distilled into something very small. And I always think of it like I've only got sort of 8 pages to win your heart. You know what I mean? I can just open that door and then quickly close it, and somehow the author has to write it in such a way that the reader gets a sense of what's come before and what's come after, but all we're basing it on is often just one moment or one scene or a tipping point sometimes, or the straw that breaks a camel's back or something. So it takes a very particular kind of skill, and you can write about anything, because I think humans are interested in other people reaching that kind of tipping point, you know, and it's not like a big long novel that you can kind of spread your ideas and have lots of things happening. Only one thing really has to happen in a short story, but it's the way that you it's like a joke. It's not the joke, it's the way you tell the joke that really matters. And I think it really shows who's got the skills to say, I've got your attention, now you're ready. It's like doing close-up magic almost, And this story is kind of based around, I don't want it to be a spoiler, but it's based around a kind of a prank, really. And my dad, many years ago, told me something similar that happened. He was in the Air Force, and that he and all of his kind of colleagues in the Air Force would always be playing tricks on each other and have these long-standing kind of grudge matches of tricks and pranks on each other. And he told me that he actually did this to another person, and it really stuck in my head for a long time. And I thought, that is just classic, and seemed classically Australian as well,
Well, this, of course, is the inaugural National Furphy Literary Award. Do you see potential in this award?
Oh, I do. I think this is a fantastic award because, well, I love the Furphy legacy in a odd sort of way, because the story of Furphy is it just seems so, it's a legacy which in fact, it reminds me, my wasn't just my father who was in the military. My grandfather was in the Light Horse Division in World War I, and my great uncle was the Gallipoli landing. And I often think about those blokes and the kind of blokes they were. They were great storytellers. They were great yarners. I bet they literally stood around the water cooler, as we say now.
Yeah.
That's where this comes from. Who can tell the best story? Who can keep us entertained? So I think this kind of award, which is a big prize, it's open to everybody, it's easy to enter. It's gonna really be a great thing to see the kind of stories that have been chosen and awarded, and I really hope it continues as a yearly event. I think it's great.
All right, well, Kate, that's a lovely note to finish on. Thank you for having a chat, and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be part of what's happened. Thank you.
That was Kate Kennedy, one of two highly commended entries in the Furphy Literary Award. Now, let's meet the other highly commended author. Her name is Yar Reeves, and she wrote Pub Raffle. Hello, Yar.
Hello, Matt. Nice to be here.
Nice to meet you as well, via Zoom, like everyone's doing these days. Congratulations, first of all. And I'm interested to know, having read some of your bio, where you found the time to actually write, because I note you've studied as if I've got this right, a classical trumpeter. You worked as a walking guide in the desert, a parks ranger, ski instructor. So where did your passion for writing come from?
I've always wanted to be a writer. When I was a kid, I wanted to be that, but it kind of got pushed to the side when I figured out that I loved doing 1,000,001 other things as well. So, to be honest, it's always been a big part of my life, but more recently, I think I've been studying, and so my writing has generally tended towards the more academic end of the spectrum. So it's quite it's quite freeing to pick up the pen and write in this style, a bit of a different style to the academic style that I have been recently. Yeah.
When you do write in this fashion, with all of these real life experiences that you've had, that some of them I just read out there, does that influence your writing?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of my work and a lot of my life I've spent in really rural and remote areas and quite deep in the bush, up cliffs and down rivers, and grew up in that in outdoor education, and my parents have always been in that field as well. So it's definitely inspired a lot of my writing, and I feel like the Australian landscape has definitely inspired my writing as well, and those experiences working in the bush and outdoors, I guess.
Now, we're all looking forward to reading the entries that have been submitted, including yours, of course. Pub Raffle, tell us, can you give us a little précis of the story and perhaps how you got inspired?
I went home over summer. My home where my parents live is in East Gippsland, far East Gippsland. So obviously we got a little bit of a fire issue down there over the summer, and I was home during that, and I was on the phone to a friend who said to me, you should write down some of the things that are happening. And I was quite busy at the time, despite, because of everything that was happening.
Yeah.
And so I just took a few notes here and there, and it ended up turning into this story, and it was quite cathartic to write. So yeah, basically it's a bit of an exploration of the experience I had while I was down there, and like everything that's come from someone's brain, a lot of it is based on things that happened, but is obviously fiction because it's my perspective as well on the experiences. But yeah, very much based on my experiences of being in the 2019-2020 bushfires. Yeah.
All right. And was there a pub raffle involved? And did you win it?
There was a pub raffle. I didn't win it. I've never won a pub raffle. I'm really unlucky in that regard.
Well, I'm in the same boat. Tell us about some of the authors that have inspired you when you sort of decided to turn your hand to writing and writing creatively.
Well, I was really lucky. When I was growing up, Alison Lester actually came and stayed with us as kids because she would speak at the schools that my parents were working at. And so her writing really inspired me early on. And as well as Elizabeth Honey, who I actually wrote to when I was a kid, and she took me to a play with her, and kind of developed this little friendship with Elizabeth Honey. So their writing inspired me when I was young. But more recently, I guess, definitely authors like Tim Winton, Cormac McCarthy is one, and in particular, more recently, Bruce Pascoe is someone who I found just really captures the real essence of life in East Gippsland, in its really particular kind of culture and a really particular kind of landscape in that area of the world. And I think he captures it so well, and he's very much inspired my approach to language. And so it's a bit of a combination, definitely, that's come into my writing. Yeah.
Well, clearly the story has fitted so well into the Furphy Literary Award criteria. What does getting this highly commended mean for you in that top three in a field of, I think, something like 850 entries?
It's pretty overwhelming and unexpected. I wrote this story before I knew about the competition, and my friend sent me the competition link, and it just slotted in. And so really it's been completely unexpected. And yeah, so I mean, it means a lot, but also I don't know what it means. And that's kind of the most exciting part, is that I'm sure that doors will open from here. I'm not sure what they are though. And that's pretty exciting for me. I'm just really excited for people to read actually really about the experience, and just have some more eyes on my work, which would be it'd be really, it's quite humbling to be.
And would you recommend the experience for the next time for the Furphy Literary Award?
I mean,
budding writers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? It's been great. It's been smooth sailing and unexpectedly surprising to end up where I am. So, yeah, for sure.
All right. And what's next? What's next in the pipeline then for Yah Reeves on the literary front?
I have no plans. I'm currently writing a thesis, so that's the closest I'm getting to writing. But we'll see. I scribble stuff all the time. So I'm working actually on a picture storybook at the moment, which is part of my thesis. So that's that's kind of what is the closest thing in the pipeline. Yeah.
Well, good luck with that and all your future literary endeavours, Yah. And once again, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on being highly commended in the Furphy Literary Award. It's been great to chat to you.
Thanks so much. It's been nice to talk to you too.
Yah Reeves, one of two highly commendeds for the Furphy Literary Award, which leaves just one person to speak to, and her name is Ruby Todd. She hasn't heard any previous chats, so I'm building the suspense here. She's from Footscray in Melbourne. Hello, Ruby.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm very well. Your short story was titled Awakening, and I think this will wake you up. You are our inaugural winner of the Furphy Literary Award.
Oh, that's amazing.
How do you feel?
Shocked and delighted and really honoured. Thank you so much. I was thrilled to have been longlisted, and then I was really thrilled to be shortlisted, and this is quite thrilling. Amazing.
And with it, the $15,000 first prize. So I guess that just adds to it all.
You can say that, yeah. It's an unusually generous award, and yeah, winning anything and being in the company of the writers I was shortlisted with, as well as the judging panel was, yeah, such esteemed company. Yes, I'm quite kind of taken aback. Yeah.
A field of 850 entries. When you submit to a national competition like this, do you entertain thoughts of winning when they're throwing the literary blanket across Australia?
I mean, I think you only enter a prize really when you've got that little spark of hope there. That's part of, I think, the delight of entering an award. There's always even as a child, I remember I'd enter a drawing competition at school, and there was also always this little kind of thrill of possibility. But they're, of course, much more than that, especially when you're an emerging writer and you're given the chance to sort of have a platform and just have your work read and considered is always just a really delightful thing. So yeah, and I think one aspect of the Furphy Literary Award that I really applaud and respect is the way that there's no barrier of cost. You know, increasingly it's a competitive world in the literary world, and internationally there are a lot of wonderful prizes, and increasingly there can be barriers of cost as well. And it's just, there was absolutely no disincentive, not to put your hat into the ring. So yeah, it's thrilling.
People will soon be able to read your award-winning story online, but without giving too much away, what can you tell us about Awakening?
Well, Awakening, it emerged from probably 3 different threads that I was preoccupied with. 2 were sort of more on a personal level of the characters, and the other one was historical and more national, but also in many ways obviously a personal tragedy for those involved, as those who read the story will discover. But I was primarily interested when I was starting to think about the story. I was really fascinated with the idea of premonitions, particularly those that come in dreams. I've always kind of really wanted to have one, and I never have, but my mother has been lucky enough to have a few, although she doesn't talk about them a lot. And I was also fascinated on top of that with the idea of what a personal tragedy, in the pressure that it puts on people, what it can do in terms of bringing 2 people together who might, from an outsider's perspective, seem quite familiar with each other and a married couple, but actually from the inside of their lives, in many ways strangers. So I wanted to kind of explore that. And I want to talk about the historical aspect because I'll spoil it.
How does one celebrate winning a national literary award in lockdown? Very quietly.
Look, I think it'll be quiet. I think in some ways quiet celebrations are my favourite. Yeah, I think I'll have to ask my husband. He actually, he in some ways kind of helped me to think about the idea for this story. So I'll have to give him a pat on the back as well. We might go for a walk with our masks on.
Well, as our inaugural winner, is there anything else you'd like to say before we let you go and have that quiet celebration?
I'd very much like to thank everyone who's been involved in the Furphy Literary Award. All of you, all of the judges, the panel, the Furphy company. Yeah, thank you all very much for the amazing opportunity. Very grateful.
Well done once again, and Joseph Furphy would be proud, I'm sure. And Ruby Todd, author of Awakening, as I said, congratulations on winning the Furphy Literary Award. Stay well in Melbourne, and good luck as always with your future writing endeavours.
Thank you so much.
And so, congratulations to our winner, Ruby Todd, all our finalists, and everyone who submitted an entry for the inaugural National Furphy Literary Award. That brings us to the end of this presentation, but don't forget the details of the winners and finalists will be available later on this website. and the work of all finalists will also be published as well. I'm Matt Dowling. Thanks for joining us. Keep well and keep writing.